Welcome back, guys. So today our topic is data weave. So we will learn about data weave. Let me share the slide. So we have covered exception handling, and now it's turn for data weave. So when you go for an interview, right? When you go for an interview, so generally they ask you how much you rate yourself in the data weave. So most of the people they say if the interviewer is asking out of 10, so they say 9, 8, right? So but when they ask like basic questions, like for example, what is data weave? It is a functional language or it's what type of language it is. They don't know, right? So I will start with some definitions or kind of a small introduction to data weave. So it will help you, to answer or to speak up something in the interviews when the interviewer asks you about the data weave. Okay. So when they ask you what is the data weave, so data weave is a functional programming language and it is designed by MuleSoft for transforming the data. Okay, so it is a tightly, it is a it is a primary language for data transformation in MuleSoft. In Mule 4 we call it like data view expression language. We don't call it like Mule expression language. We call it Mule expression language was in Mule 3, but in Mule 4 we call it as we everything is data view expression language. There is nothing like Mule expression language. Everything is now Mule data view expression language. Okay. So it's a primary language for data transformation in MuleSoft as well as the expression language used to configure components and connectors. So in connectors, when you write something like I'll show you this, like it's a logger one, and inside logger, when you give the message to print, so there is a literal mode and expression mode. Switch to literal. This is the literal simple string, and when you switch on to the expression mode, so this is whatever you write here, we write it here the expression language, that is data view expression language. Okay, so we can write here the data view. Okay, so let me go back. Yeah. So it is strongly integrated with the Mule runtime, and data view scripts act on the data in the Mule event. Mule event, in the starting, I have explained you what is Mule event. So I will show you back. This is the Mule event. So this is the Mule event. Inside Mule event, we have Mule message, attributes, payload, and variables. Okay. So this is Mule events. So yeah. So database scripts act on data in the Mule event. Whatever data in the Mule event, it acts on that. So most commonly we use it to access and transform data in the message payload. So mostly we use it, but in Mule event we have attributes, variables. So we sometimes we act on that also. Okay. And main thing is it is strongly integrated with the Mule runtime. That is the main thing. Okay. So let's move to the next slide. This one. So data view allow users to easily perform a common use case for integration developers, read and pass data from one format, transform it and write it out as different format. For example, a database script could take in a simple CSV file and format it into an array of complex JSON objects. So it could take in it could take in XML and write the data out to a file format. So in this diagram, if you see data in, so when data view receives the data, it puts it through the reader. So reader's job is to pass. So reader's job is to pass the input data into a canonical model, and it then passes that model to data view script. Okay, where it is used to generate the output. Okay, so this is the kind of flow in the data view. So like when it is passes that canonical model to data script where it is used to generate the output, which is another canonical model, So last canonical model is passed into a writer. So now writer is responsible for serializing the canonical model, this canonical model, into the desired output format, desired data output format. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so this is a kind of a flow. If you want, I can repeat it. Like when data view receives the data, it put it through the reader. So reader's job is to pass the input data into a canonical model. So this is the first canonical model. It then pass the data model to the canonical model to the data view script. So here it is used to generate the output. That canonical model we are using to generate the output. So that will be another canonical model. So this canonical model after the data view script that we use to write the output. Okay, so it is passed to a writer, and writer is responsible for serializing this canonical model into the desired output format. So this is the complete flow. How this is the complete flow how data view works. Okay, so now how it looks like, the data view. So this is the structure of the data view. Data view, in the data view we have a header. Header contains this some functions, some variables, and output directive, and the directive, the version of the data view. So this is the /wdw 2.0 is the version of the data view. Output application/json is a output directive. So these things are, we called it as header. And after the header there is three separators, means three hyphens, we call it as separator. It will be always three hyphens. If you delete one or two, your data view will give you the error. Okay, and after the separator, whatever you write, it will call it as body. So these three things are the, means this structure, header, separator, body, these are the three things in the data view structure. And the first one, that percentile DW and 2.0, it's optional. If you write it, it's fine. If you don't write it, then also it's fine, because it just signifies that it's a version of the data view. Okay, so this is a version, and this output application/JSON. So until the target is expecting any other format, like first I will show you the default one. Like for writing the data view, we use transform component, transform message in our AnyPoint Studio. One moment. So transform message, just take this. So if you see, by default there is output directive as application/Java. So this is the by default one. Okay, whenever you take the transform message to write the data view, it will be output directive will be Java. So until the target is expecting any other format, such as JSON, XML, okay, we should leave this to Java only. So it ensures, the data view ensures to internal, no internal marshalling and unmarshalling is done. Hence, it will give you the better performance. Okay, so to change the output data view, we just need to change this this data type. Like you can write application/JSON, application/XML. There are a lot of data types available in Mule for available in the data view. So I will show you all those. First, I will show you the compatibility. Like I was saying the data view version. Okay. So one important thing, I'm talking about only data view 2. I'm not talking about data view 1. Data view 1 was we were using in Mule 3, but now we are using Mule 4, and this training is only for Mule 4. So we will talk about data view version 2. And currently, because in our AnyPoint Studio, we are using the Mule runtime 4.4. This is the 4.4. Okay. So in 4.4, this is the table that we have for Mule 4 version 4.4. Data view version is 2.4. Okay, and these all are other versions, and it's compatible data view versions. So sometimes in data view 2.4 there are some changes, some updates. In data view 2.3 there are some other updates. So sometimes people ask me like we are using 4.3 version. We were using 4.3 and our data view code were working in this. But when we updated the Mule runtime, it is not working. So when In that case, you just need to check the updates. What are the updates in DataView version 2.4 related to Mule version 4.4? So if you will check that, you will automatically come to know that, oh, these are the changes. That's why our DataView is not working. So we need to amend our DataView according to those updates. Okay, so this is the simple thing. Sometimes there are a lot of questions on the MuleSoft helper forum, especially for these things. Okay, so this is pretty simple. If your application is working in one runtime and it is not working in another one, so it's pretty simple. There is some update. Okay, so if they just check that update and you will come to know what exactly is there. Okay, so now move to the next one. So these are the valid data types. As I have told you, like we can just change this output. So for that, these are the valid output data types. Have application Java, CSV, text CSV, text application slash XML, text XML, text plain, like this application slash DW. These are all valid output types. Okay, now, so okay, I did something. These are the output types and these are the data types. So in data, we support all these data types like array, boolean and all. It supports many data types, but mostly we use object and array. We mostly use object and array, but there are many, but widely used one are these. Okay. So these were about data types, compatibility. This is the structure and this is the flow, how data view internally works and how data flows in the data view. So this is all about that. Now there are selectors. So selectors. So there are some selectors in the data view. Selector means what is selectors. So selectors is like to how you select or how you know uh, what we say like there are some complex structures, some complex objects and arrays, right? And how you navigate over the how you navigate your data using how you navigate your data into that. So for that you use selector expression. So each selector expression returns either an object or an array or a simple type. Okay, so selectors basically we use to in common language, I will say to just to select the data. So there is like first single value selector. So there we just use dot key name. Okay, so it will returns first value whose key matches the expression. Okay, so like we have payload, like I will show you. So this is kind of whatever I am showing at the moment. Whatever I'm showing at the moment is a data view playground. Okay, you can write your data view expressions here instead of directly writing in your Anypoint Studio. So here you can do any changes. Sometimes data view Anypoint Studio is slow. Okay, so it's a kind of a official playground given by MuleSoft, and here if you see here are some tutorials also. Okay, so like creating data string number, what is data PV, what is MIME types, like this is the MIME types, X name, X application slash XML, JSON application slash CSV. So you can go through this tutorial. This is the link. I will paste you in the chat. So this is the one of the way to execute your or to write your data view. Okay, so this is the data view playground. We call it a data view playground. So if there is tutorial and the playground. So this is the playground. So if you click on JSON, like if you want to give the input as JSON, there are just click on JSON. There are many types, like many input types that you can give, like JSON, DWL tags, multipart, okay, a different CSV. But now I'm just giving the JSON and I just want to show you the selector. So here I'm giving payload.keyname. So keyname is here message. So if we give payload.message, it will just give its value. Okay, so this is kind of a selector. So if you see single value selector dot keyname, so returns the first value whose key matches the expression. In the same way, we have multi-value selector. It returns an array of values matching the keyname. Okay, so in the same way, we have descendant. Third one is descendant selector, and it retrieves the values of all matching key value pairs in the subtree under the current context. I will show you all these things when we will do a live demo, but I'm telling you all these things in the perspective of your interviews questions. Okay, so they can ask do you know how many selectors are there? How many of you used? Can you explain me one or two? So you can just, that's why I'm explaining all these things. In the same way, we have index selector, attribute selector, and this is the reference that you can use. This is the official document of MuleSoft DataView selectors. So if you see, we have 5 selectors, and there you go down, there are, they are giving you all the examples and they are explaining everything. So this you can follow. You just go once. It will not take much time, hardly 30 minutes to understand everything with examples. Okay, so it's very easy. I will show you when I will do some data transformations. So that time it will be there. And this is official document of data view. So there are so many things like types, the data view. If you click on the types, you will see data view value types like array, all these things are explained. So whatever links I'm providing, these are very important. So go through once. Okay, so it is really value. It will give you more understanding. So now data view modules. So there are some modules. I will click on this and okay. So these are some modules that are already there. So DW core modules. This module contains core data view functions, core data view functions for data transformations. It is automatically imported into any data view script. It is like by default. You don't need to import this. Okay. So these are the by default ones. So in DW core, you have all these contains, days, between. So for example, in the DW core module, there is a function contains, and it returns true if an input contains a given value. For example, there is an array 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you write payload contains 2, so it will give you true. I will show you an example like payload contains, sorry. Okay. Where is except? Okay. The version of contains accepts an array as input. So that's why we are getting an error. So here, what we need to do, for example, it's a string array, and here we have values like, I think it should work on a string array. Or maybe I'm doing something wrong. Payload contains 2. Yeah, it should work. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, sorry. I'm giving the mistake like payload dot message will be there. Okay, so payload dot message contains hello world. So now it's false. Why it's false? Payload dot message contains this. It's this one. If you see, it's true. So when we don't give this, it's matching the complete string, and complete string is hello world. So that's why hello world after world we don't giving this sign. So that's why it was giving false. Now it's giving true. So this is the simple things that are here. So this is the DW core module that it is available by default in your data view. You don't need to import it. So in the same way, there are many modules like DW core, arrays, binaries, dates, numbers, crypto. For example, I want to show you, for example, okay, I'll show you this math. Click on math. A utility module that provides mathematical functions. So it is not by default there. You need to import it. For example, for math, we have this echoes function. So for that, if whatever it is, it returns an a arc cosine value that can range from 0.0 through pi. Okay, so because it's not a default module, so you need to import it in your data view. So for importing, we use this like this. I will copy this one, and here either you can write it here or you can write it here. Okay, it should be in the header. Okay, so import star from this module DWUtil math, because DWUtil have so many things. DWUtil coefficients, DWUtil diff, this math, timer, tree values. So many are there, but you want a specific one, DWUtil math. So like this, you need to import any module. Sometimes when you guys work, you know the function, but you get the error. You get the error because you forgot to import the module. Okay, so whatever function you are using for that, if for example, if you are using any function from core module, then no need to import. But if you are using some function from different modules, then definitely you need to import that module in your data weave script here in the header. So this is the simple one, how you use your importing. Okay, so these are all about data view like modules. And now the complex means we can do the very complex data uh, transformations. Like there are complex arrays, complex objects, there are complex XMLs as an input. Many CSV files you will get the input. So all those data transformations you can do using the data view. Okay, so this is all about little bit, understanding of the data view before starting our live demo. And before starting live demo, I have explained all the definitions and all the structures of the data view, like data view and how all these things internally it works here. Got it. So the guys who worked in the Mule 3, so Mule 4 have so many changes. The data view version in Mule 3 was 1.0. Now we have in like 2.0. If you see 3.9, till 3.9 it was 1, and the last one was 1.2. And from Mule 4, it is version 2, 2.1234. Okay. So DWL version has been changed. All directives in the data view 1.0 need to start with percentile. But if you see here, this this directive, we are not starting with the percentile. We no need we don't need, and it should not start with the percentile in the data view 2 version. So it is no longer needed for percentile declaration. Okay. So custom functions in data view 1 are defined with function directive. Like I will show you. So I will just delete it. The small changes I'm telling you. It was like function, but now in data view 2, we just call it, we just give it as a function. So function test is equal to whatever it is doing. Okay, so this is the simple one. Like function we give like its value whatever it wants to do. If we do test, okay, what what function, okay, this, because it's a function. Okay, so we need to declare it like this. So data view playground, there is one more most important thing. there is one more important thing is like whenever you, for example, you are going on this, you are hovering on the function name, so it will show you expression type. Okay, so here, for example, we are giving something, some data. So you need to do something with the data like this, and when you call the function, you need to pass that value. Okay, so for example, you are calling this function as name test. Inside that, you need to pass its argument, that is data, and you can define its type. Otherwise, whatever you will give, it will be its. If you give 1, 2, 3, it will be by default. It will take its type. But if you specifically want like data or array, so it accepts only the array. So you need to explicitly define it. You need to explicitly give what should be the type of this data. So when you will not give array, then it will give you an error, like expecting type is array, but got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it will give you an array, and same array, whatever it playground is showing you, in the same way you will get in your exact, means in your Anypoint Studio. So this is the one way to write your data view. Another way is this one, in the transform message. You can write the data view here. Okay, so this is the one, and what was the second one? Okay, uh, like okay, I want to explain you some more things about. First, I will cover this playground. So here it is like a input explorer. This is the input explorer. Here we give mocked input payload, like mocked means our static one, our hard coded one. It's a mocked input data. And script explorer, this is the script explorer. Here we do the transformation and transformation. Uh, so here this is the output, that is the preview script of execution results. This is all like how it works. And there is a log viewer also. This is the log viewer, but at the moment there is no logs. We in the data view also we can do some logging using log function. I will show you that, but we don't, it's kind of log viewer. So now in data view we can use, like we can work with multiple input scripts. So for example, in JSON we are here, we can give the JSON payload. Okay, and now we can write the script. For example, we can write this MuleSoft script using this JSON payload, but we want to use some variables also. So for that, what you need to do, just go to this here. One second, I will show you small thing. So if you click on this, this is the payload. You are just clicking on here and its type is JSON. Now click on plus and it will ask you like identifier. Click on identifier. Okay, it's not giving. So I'm just giving where show you what is, how it show you actually. Should show something like this. If you, I gave it wrong name, its name should be where's actually. Let me delete. Okay, I don't know. I don't know how to delete it. No problem. I will create a new one. Where's, and now we created this attributes.dw. It means this is the main DW. This is the some DW if you want to do some it's a kind of a generally we use it to create a like custom modules. We can give our functions here, so that time we use here, but at the moment no need. So I'm just explaining you how we can create different uh, files, like main DWL file, attributes.dwl file, how we can declare the variables in the same way how we can declare the attributes, like attributes. So there will be all attributes. We'll define all attributes here, and like here in attribute. This is the main tutorial file where we will do actual transformation here. If you want to try adding some custom modules, so then we can create another DW file in the script explorer. So this input explorer, script, and the output. Script explorer we use in this way. Input explorer we can give attributes as input or payload as inputs. Okay, so now this is the one, and the move to the second one. So this is the second one. If you see in the like for writing the data view script, we use the transform message, and in you double click on the transform message, you will get this window. Like in this one, you will get the input, output, and the preview. If you see three different buttons here. Here, if you see the first button, it will show you the graphics, and here show source with trees like this, and here it will like for the source only, this one, and this is the preview. Here, whatever you write, it will come as a preview. For example, one moment. I will write something JKJ. So there is no preview button to be shown. When you write something and when you want to see its preview, same like DataV playground, whatever you are writing in the main DWL, for example, test 1, 2, 3, we need to pass it this. So this is the preview kind of your output. You easily can see, but here you are not able to see it. So for that, I think there is a you need to go Windows preferences. If you are using Mac, or if you are using some other operating system, so options will be different. But in I'm using Windows, so there, if you go on the top of the Anypoint Studio, there is Windows, and then go to preferences and the search link this one. So restart Studio Services because it is not showing you any preview. Okay, it started. Okay, it's showing you the preview. But generally, if it doesn't show you any preview, then you just go to preferences and search tooling. Go to tooling and restart Studio Services. You can just restart, or you can check the status. That's it. You need to do this one, and it will show you the preview. This is the one. And for example, we have here application / Java. So output will be a Java, like a object, Java type. But now if we change it to JSON, so it will give you that type of output. This is a JSON object. So this is the one, that how we write the data view and how we can see its preview. Okay, this is the one, and here you can give your input payload. One moment, stuck. Okay, so here it's a payload. So we can, for example, we want to give a small payload, same like this one. This is a payload, and copy this, go to this and edit sample data. And here just pass this one. And now I want to write the same data weave. So click on this, copy paste. And now we can see this is the preview. And this is our payload. So likewise, we can do all the testing in the Anypoint Studio itself. But sometimes, like DataV Playground is okay, but sometimes when our input payload is, we have number of lines, like 1000 line of payload. In that time, DataV Playground gets stuck. It won't work. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it's very slow, or sometimes it will not give you the correct output. So DataV Playground you can use for small data transformations when your input is very small. So generally you should do when your payload is very big, then you should use this feature. So these are the two ways how you write your data view. Means how you can write your data view. One is in the Anypoint Studio, and second using your data view Playground. Okay, so this was all about our two things. Now, I have explained you modules, selectors, data types. Okay, now I will take one by one example. For examples are like, I will not do everything here because sometimes Put Studio is slow. So I generally do everything using DataV Playground. So I will show you everything here only. So for example, I have a payload. Let me refresh this page. When you do refreshing, whatever you have written in the payload in the DataV Playground, everything will get away. You need to write it again. So whenever before refreshing the page, whatever you have written, you need to copy it somewhere. Okay. So now go to payload. For example, in the payload, I have an array like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And now I want to first, I want as it is. Okay. This is because okay, if I want it as it is, whatever in the payload, so you just need to write the payload. But I want it like, for example, I want it um as a string instead of array. So there is a function called in the core module. We have a join by. Let me see if it is core. This is the join by. So whatever I am showing you, everything will be on this link. So you need to practice. Okay. So if you see join by this one merges an array into a single string value and use the provided string as a separator between each item in the list. Got it? And note that join by performs the opposite task of split by. There is one more function split by. So whatever split by do, it's doing oppositely. So let's show you the payload. And now we'll say join by. If in the DataV Playground, whatever you write, whatever function you will write, it will automatically show you and like it will automatically give you an option to select. So for example, I'm just writing join. It is giving you after writing geo, it is automatically showing you join by. So just click on it. That's it. And then accordingly give it like how you want. So join by comma. Okay, so it was an array, but now it's is in a simple string. So like that you can do. So sometimes there is a requirement when you have an array and you want it as a string. So then you need to do something like this. Now, what we want to do, we want to split. Now we want to convert it back as an array. So what there is one more like split by. There was a split by. So let me show you one by one the split by. Split by. It splits a string into a string array based on the value that matches part of the string. Okay, so now one moment guys, I'm back from back. Sorry guys. Okay, so now if you see this split by, I want to show you something. Split by give comma and here comma. Okay, if you see earlier it was like we converted it first from array to like this string, we joined by a comma, it came to like this, and when we do split it will merge it into an array, but all the values will be as a string. Okay, so this is kind of a simple example how you convert all those things. Now I instead of this I want to show you more uh, other things that is commonly we used. So generally we mostly like as I have told you, we will work on array and objects. Go to the data view. if you see the data types, so there are many data types, but I have told you like we mostly we work on array and objects. So I want to show you this one, here, how we work on object and arrays. So there are two things. First, in DataWeave, there is a map and map object. Let me show you in the official document, map in Vue 4. So this is map of documentation. So this is the map and it comes in the core module. Okay, so we don't need this. It is already there. So see. So map and map object. Map. So map generally works with an array and it iterates over an array and returns an array. But map object, this is the map object, the next function in the core module. So in map object means it iterates over an object and returns an object. So guys, mostly interviewers ask what is map and map object, and based on that they will give you an example and they will ask you to transform that into a required output form. Okay, so there is one more is plug function. This is plug here. So plug, it is also iterates over an objects and returns an array of keys, values or indices in that object. So map iterates over an array and returns an array. Map object iterates over an object and returns an object. But plug iterates over an object and returns array of keys, values or indices in that object. If you see, this is the object. This is it. Okay, I will show you in the playground. This is the playground. Okay, so if you see, this was the object and it is iterating over this object plug function. So inside plug, how we write the plug function, I will show you that. If you see plug object is key and value and then mapper accordingly. It's like this. So when if you see value, key, index, and then we are operating on key and value. So index is 0, like eighth in this index 1 by 1. Like here we have like key value at 0th index and second index. Yeah, so it index, if we write index like this, index, and then after index we have value key and then close it. So if you see, first plug iterates over an object, but it returns the array of keys, value or indices. So this is indices, key value pair like this. So here how we write value key index. So index, if we write index like this, simple index. Okay, so it will understand it like this. We want to give it like a string, but when you cover it, when you wrap up it into brackets, it means it is a it is referring to this index. In the same way, value and key. So if you remove this bracket, if you see, it's giving a value. And now if we wrap it inside the bracket, it will refer it to value, and value is B and D. There's a key A, value B. So here value colon key we are giving. So that's why it's reversing B and A. Now I will show you key and value. Here we are giving value key. Now I will show you key, comma, key colon value. So if you see here, because it's before the colon, whatever you are giving, it will refer it as a normal string. But when you wrap it up into the brackets, then it will refer it to this key. So if you see 0 and A and B, sometimes we get a question like I want to swap key value pair and I want an array of that. So you just need to simply use the plug, and then you will give it like this. And accordingly, they will go next. Like we need only key value pair, we don't need index and all. So accordingly you need to think. I will show you all those things, but I don't want to go directly. I don't want to jump into directly into the advanced, but I will show you one by one. So some people, what they do when they are learning the data weave, they just try to delete the index, but it it won't work it won't work by simply deleting the key value. Okay, so for that means by simply deleting the index. For that, go to control Z. What you need to do, because you are using the index, so what you need, we deleted the index, but you need to delete this packets. And how you identify that? Invalid input plug, expected function call. I think it's not a proper to understand by you guys, but generally, because it's starting with this bracket and ending here. So what we can do, we just need to delete these brackets. That's it. So it will give you something like this. That's a pretty simple one. So we don't need index, but and here you can delete the index also. You don't need to operate on the index. So it will be something like this. And also there is a question. Okay, first I will show you example of map. So let me go to map. It is an array. Delete this, and I will show you from here only. There is the map. This is the map. So there are many examples. When these are the small concepts that I want to, I want to give you. So based on that, you can understand how plug work, how map work, how map object work. So plug is done. Now I'm showing you map. So map works, as I have told you, map work means it iterates over an array and returns an array. Got it? So now, for example, there is an example, it's giving an array, this one. Oh, I'll just copy this to show you. This was the example of. So I will create a new one. So I'll just copy paste this. So or you can do one thing, instead of taking this, I will just cut it, paste it here. Here I will write payload. Okay. So payload is an array. So to start working, if you have any array in the array as an input, and if you want anything from that array, so you by default blindly you need to go with the map function. So then map is like, if you hover on map, or if you go to the map documentation, it's like map item is index. It's, you need to give it like this. If you hover on, I just delete these two, control X. If you see, okay, map array payload map. Yeah. So payload map items will be an array, then mapper item or index. It's something like this. How to show. Yeah. It's like this. Item, the array to map, expression or selector used to act on, mapper, each item, and optionally. So here if you see items array, mapper is, so it is explaining everything, what is items, what is in mapper, and then it's an example. So example is same that we have seen in our MuleSoft documentation. Jose, Pedro, Mateo. It is showing us same. If we click on map again, and here you see everything is from the documentation itself. It is showing you the complete same documentation here by default. Okay, so I just click on map, it will give you item index. So item is this, and then you can work on it. So if you want to understand what is index and item, is same, every definition there. So we items are these inside an array and its index is 0, 1, 2. It will iterate 3 times, means 0, 1, 2 like this. And now if you just give item, so you will get its items, whatever items are there. If you give index, it will show you how many indexes are there in that payload. So it's something like this. Okay, but now I want to give like index colon item. So here, as I have told you before colon, I need to wrap it into the bracket. So it will be like 0. The 0th index is Jose. At 0th index, we have Jose, and first index we have Pedro, third index we have Matthew. Not third index, first index, second index. So it works like this. So this is the some simple transformations that we are doing. Now, instead of in the item, I want to add something like plus plus. I want to add this, some string or something like some space and then one moment. Okay, so I want to give, for example, MuleSoft. MuleSoft. So it will add it like this. And now, for example, I want to add 2, 3. It will be like OJ 1, 2, 3. But before 1, 2, 3, I want to give this space. So you need to give like this plus plus and then again plus plus again plus plus. So it will add it like this OJ 1, 2, 3. So this is a simple transformation. If we want to do anything on the on our input values, then you can do simply like this. Okay, so this was map, small example, and now I will show you the map object. But before that, I want to show you one more thing. Everything we are doing using item index, but this is a very small example or small thing. So there is one more thing, a dollar and dollar dollar. So if you see map, if you want just print item, so we'll use dollar. So if you see it's printed dollar. If you use dollar dollar, it will print our index. So now if I print like this, so it will print it's working as an index and it's working as a dollar as an item. So dollar dollar symbol is used to access the key or index or the key value pair in an array, and in an array it means I confuse. Sorry. So dollar dollar symbol is used to access the key of the key value pair, access the key or index of the key value pair. And in an array, it returns index, and in object, it returns key. So when we use dollar dollar in an array, it returns index like this 0, 1, 2. But same dollar dollar when we use in map object, like in the object, it will return us the key. It will not return the index. So that is the main thing. Sometimes interviewer asks you what is how dollar dollar works in object and in an array. So you need to say in an array dollar dollar returns index, in an object dollar dollar returns key, and dollar symbol is used to access the value of the key value pair. Okay, so it just used to access the value of the key value pair. Like this it works in both array and object. So in small examples or like sometimes in the complex things, you can do this, but generally in very complex situations, we use item and index. So this was our example of map. And now come to map object. I'll create a new script. So this is the map object. I will show you same example, not same. This one I will copy, and in the payload, I will give it like this. That's it. And whenever there is a, whenever you use a JSON object, sometimes whenever you get an input from third party and when you do the transformations, you don't know that the input JSON is correct or wrong. For example, they are missing this one, the square, sorry, double quotes. Okay, and you just start writing the data in Anypoint Studio. So it will not work. Every time whenever you have a JSON, just check the JSON is correct or not. So go to JSON lint. I generally use the JSON lint to check any kind of JSON or to align the JSON properly. So I will write it here and click on validate JSON. So it will validate it. If it is right, it will say valid JSON. If it is wrong, for example, this one, it will say error, parser error in line 3. Like this, it will give you an array. Oh, sorry, error. And it will align properly. So now copy it and go to our in payload. I copied it like this. It's now, it's a little bit clear to understand what are the what are the key or what are the values. Earlier, it was like a one-liner, so it's very hard to understand when it will be a number of lines in the JSON, right? So that's why we first align it properly and then start writing your database script. Now, we were talking about the map object. So payload, we use payload, and like in the second one, I have shown you map. Now I will show you map object. And here I will show you the work of the dollar because I have told you in an array, dollar returns index, but in object it returns key. Now, map object, you see map object key value like is the same documentation. Okay, so I will select map object value key index. Now, first I will show you with the value key index. So here I will say like key and then value. So it will give me same thing. But now I want to reverse it. So value PB and here I want to say key. It will reverse the key value pair. Sometimes these requirements comes into your project that whatever input is coming, the third party, the target system wants it opposite. They want either key, only key, or they want instead of key value, they want like value in place of key and key in place of value. So you can do it like this. And now I want example only because it's a object, so we need to pass something. Value like this, and now index also I and ex like this. It will show you 0 and 1. It's the same thing. And addition, like if you want to do some concatenation, that you can do in the same way like this. This is pretty simple. Now I will show you with the dollar and dollar. So here map objects just dollar. It won't work it like this. So it's an object, so you need to give dollar. Sorry, dollar. Okay, because it's a map object. And in map object, it iterates on an object and returns an object. So object should be properly defined. Okay, so that's why we need to give it like this curly bracket inside this. So if you see dollar here, it's an object. So if you're writing the dollar, it is giving you a key A and C. But here, when you were writing, okay, I will show you here. Dollar. You see dollar, as I have told you in the array, it will return index. So dollar here, when our input is an array, dollar is returning index. But second one, when it is an object, so dollar is returning it as a key. Oh, sorry, key. This A and C. Got it? But dollar is always returns your value B and D. And here also dollar is returning its value Jose, Pedro, and Matthew. So this is a very clear difference of dollar and dollar. Mostly like like out of 100, 90% they ask you, interviewer will ask you what is how dollar works, how dollar works. So you need to answer like this. It's pretty simple. Now, what I want to show you, there is an example. Okay, yeah, I want to show you before moving ahead. I want to show you how we define the variables and functions in our header. Like we, there are local variables, global variables, uh, globally, whatever we define globally and local, we will see how we define the local variables also. So there is some other functions for that. First, I want to show you like a global variable that we can use anywhere in our body. So how we define that, we need to give where. Don't forget, like when we define some variable here and to access it somewhere in the code, we use where's dot. But to define the variable in data, we give where. And if you see its color, it's a blue. And when you give where's, it's a wrong. If it's a wrong thing. Okay, it will, if you see invalid input. Before this, we can define functions in the headers, functions, we can give our output directive, we can define variables. So where is wrong, where is right. Now give the where name. It's a where means we are defining a variable. Now give its name. Its name is like we can give mule, mule. That's it, mule, or we mule test, or we will give its mule demo. Okay. So here we can define something like test. Its value is test. Now I want to access it into the body. So what we need to do? I want to in our values, I want to add like Hoj test. So how I will do? I will do is plus plus, and then simply I will give mule demo name. So it will add it. And if we want to give space between this, so just space and plus plus mule demo. So it will add it like this. And now I want one more thing, plus plus. Something like this. So it is test 0, test 1, test 2. OJ test 0, test 1, test 2, something like this, it will give you. So we declared the variable and we used it like simply by taking its name. So sometimes what happens when your payload, like you have a lot of fields. For example, I will create a JSON like name, city, and language. Hindi. Okay, I will take this. I'll just give it here. So if you see, this is the array. There is an array. We change the payload. We were working on some payload that is not available there because now it's an object. Earlier it was an array. So map doesn't work. Payload is fine, but payload we are using map, but it's an object. So we need to use here the map object. So I'm just removing this just to show you something. Okay. Payload. So we get this. Now we have defined some variable, but in variable I don't want to because the thing is like it's always like payload dot name I have, but here in name we have like instead of b we have something like this. There is one more field, first name. In the first name we have like mule. This is first time mule. Now payload dot name, it will come like this. And now exactly I want first name. So payload dot name dot first name. This is a kind of a selector that we are using. The first selector that we have discussed. This one single value selector, the key name, payload dot key name is kind that. So I am covering everything like this. So this is a kind of selector we are doing. We are using actually. So payload dot first name new mule. But now the thing is, it's very now if you see it's very lengthy. I'm taking a small example, but sometimes there are complex, complex objects. So I don't want to write all these things every time. For example, I want at the end, enter. I want to change the input like demo class name. Okay. So I don't want every time because next value will be related to city, will be like demo city. And if it will be inside this again, control X paste here. So here, what do I need to do? Payload dot name dot city. And here this. I don't want to write every time this lengthy thing. So what I will do instead of writing this, I will do just like control X and I will give it into the variable payload dot name. So this time instead of writing this, I will just use like this. Mule demo dot first name. So payload name is already there. So in mule demo, what we have in mule demo, let me show you mule demo. In mule demo, we have this value. And if we do mule dot first name, so it will give us mule. So same thing I'm doing here like this mule demo dot first name. And in this, I'm giving the direct value, but here also I can use mule demo simply like this. Okay. What is the mistake? Demo city. Did I have done any mistake or what? Why it's not taking? Name. It's not found.
Demo city will.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. This like this. Correct. So mule demo dot city because mule demo already have dot name. So this is pretty simple. So like this, we define the variable and like this, we use it and how we define, how we do. This is this pretty simple function. Now, pretty simple thing. Now we define the variable. Now I want to show you the function. So here for defining the function, we need to use fun. Fun. Earlier it was function in the data v1 with the percentile sign. Now we don't need to do that. Just fun and create like add function. I want to add something here. I need to give its value and instead in the value, I want to give like value. I want to I want to do some operation on this. So value plus 1 2 3 something I want to do. So in the mule city value is there. Okay, so I will call this. I define the function like this. Add its argument and on the argument I want to do some operation. So I need to call this now from the in the code something like this add and give its argument. Okay, so its value was D and we are adding 1 2 3. So it is giving me value D123. So it's adding. It's a simple function we called. So why we are defining this? If there are multiple fields and we want to do the same thing on the fields. So instead of writing every time plus 1 2 3, we just need to call this function and it will do its work and it will add. We just need to give the value and it will do its operation and we will get this output. So it's a very small example of a function, but functions generally are very, very complex for very complex operations. Like we are doing addition, multiplication, and then also we are doing some logic. So many cases are there. Then we define the function. So it's pretty, we don't need to write the code again and again. We don't need to do that operation and again. We just declare the function and every time we call that function will do your job and it will give you the output. So that like this, we define variable and we define function. All these will be in our headers. So it's a pretty simple thing. So we define, I have explained you map object, this function and variable declaration. So in the next class, I have some written examples that I will show you one by one. But for more practice and all, obviously, this is the documentation that you need to follow. This complete documentation. There are so many examples are there. I cannot do all into this class, but I can explain you some important ones that you will use daily in your daily work. Like for example, plug, filter, update function, join by function, uh, is empty function, type of payload, like type of log, lower, matches, like common functions that generally in your daily routine you will use. But to complete all other functions, you have to practice, you have to go through this documentation. Okay, so this is enough for today, and we'll see you tomorrow again. Uh,